Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Saturday, January 31st, 2026, and I am coming at you live from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where everything is completely normal and everyone is acting completely rationally. And if you say that they're not acting rationally, then you are a communist or a fascist. Um, yeah, I guess that's like the big thing that happened this week. I don't know. I don't love talking about the mainstream news too much, especially with the articles. We get some fun articles here. You know what I mean? Gas explosion kills 5 people. Boat goes missing. Uh Lady thought she was a mermaid. Those are the articles we have this week, but I mean, yeah. We all know what we all saw that all heard about this thing that happened in Minneapolis where ICE shot this guy 8 times, and there's that old adage that everybody knows. Sometimes you have to kill a few people to deport nobody, right? That's how the old phrase. ICE is deporting like 10,000 people, and they've killed like eight at least. Now, were a lot of those eight? I mean, come on, guy. You go try to fist fight a guy with a gun, he might shoot you in the head. I'm not saying you should get shot in the head, but I mean, it's a real possibility. It's like the whole Eileen Weiranos thing I talked about, who was that hooker who killed like a bunch of dudes and stuff. And my whole opinion about that situation, I wasn't coming down on it morally or whatever, and I was like, if you're going out there and you're getting like a dirty like street walking whore, you might get shot in the fucking head and shot and robbed. And if you're a dirty street walking whore, you might get raped. And that's just like it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just it is what it is type of thing. If you want to go fist fight a psychopath who barely got his GED and is now armed like he's about to invade Iraq, then yeah, you might get shot in the head. Um, but that video, I think a lot of people on the left are ignoring how nuanced that whole situation is, because yes, did they shoot an unarmed guy 8 times? Yes, they did. Despite the fact that he posed no real threat to them, but the thing they're forgetting is that his gun did go off. The guy's gun did go off. He just wasn't holding it when it went off, right? Like that's the aspect of this that the left is kind of ignoring, is that a bullet was fired out of his gun. He just didn't have it in his hand. That is the defense. That is like the defense that people are using to defend ICE or whatever right now. It's like his gun went off, and it's like, yeah, but he wasn't holding the gun. Like, yeah, if he was holding the gun and he shot it, even if he didn't hit anybody, you got to take that guy out of the equation. You know what I mean? Like, from a moral, legal, whatever, like that's all good. But he was not holding the gun, and they're like, well, they didn't know it. They should have. It's their job. Like, it's the cop's job to know uh what's going on with someone they're arresting. You know what I mean? It's the cop's job to know, right? Like, if the cops arrested a guy for having meth and one of the, other cops pulled the bag of meth out of his thing and went and took it into fucking evidence or whatever, uh, and didn't tell it to the other cop, and then they released the guy. I mean, that's just because the other cop was like searching him and he didn't find any meth on him, not knowing that the other cop took the meth, and releases him. They have to be able to communicate. They have to be able to speak to each other, right? Like, that's not a basic requirement for being a law enforcement officer. That's like a basic requirement for being a human being. But like I said, at the same time, I mean, you shouldn't get shot for what he did. You shouldn't, you know what I mean? Especially in the situation where he was shot, you shouldn't get shot for doing that. But at the same time, you have to expect it. You know what I mean? You have to expect that these people that you're fucking with constantly are gonna shoot you. You know what I mean? These psychopaths, right? You call them, these people are calling ICE the Gestapo and all that shit, and it's like, whether you disagree with it or agree with it, that's their point of view. Their point of view is that, ICE agents are as good as Nazis. Now, are a lot of them Mexican? Yeah, which I mean, a lot of Mexicans are pretty racist, but it's not the point. If you want to go fist fight the Gestapo, uh, you might get shot, and that's the funny thing. I think about the reaction from the left is that they're all like, "This is like an unprecedented abuse of power," and it's like you've been calling them the Gestapo for like 8 months now. It's I'm not saying you shouldn't be mad, but you should expect it, right? You shouldn't be surprised at it at all. You shouldn't be like freaking out and crying or whatever. You should be like, yeah, that's what the Gestapo does. They shoot people in the head. So yeah, I don't know. The whole situation is just it's kind of funny though. And that brings me to my next point, or the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is I mean, it goes back to that whole just don't fuck with people type of thing, right? Or if you do, there's a certain reaction that that person is going to give you, whether it's the right reaction or the not or the wrong reaction, right? Whether it's justified or not, you have to expect the reaction, right? So I was at the gym. I go to the gym 3 4 days a week usually, workout, and I, I do pretty normal workouts. You know what I mean? I lift. I'll do a warm up set, and then I do 3 working sets. And in between each set, I take like a 1 to 2 minute break, right? Because your body needs time to recuperate, get all the oxygen back in there. You need to take some deep breaths. Need to shake it out a little bit so that you can work yourself as hard as you did in the last set, right? Because if you go one right after another, that's I mean, you're still lifting weight and you're still gonna gain muscle from it, right? If you're lifting weights, you're gonna gain muscle. That's it's just how it works. You might tear your labrum and your knees might explode, but I mean, any capacity where you're moving weights is going to gain you muscle in one way or another. You might be gaining muscle where you don't want it to be gained, but you're going to gain it. But anyway, I take like a 1 to 2 minute break and I play chess on my phone in between uh each set that I do during my break, because it's like the fuck else am I going to do? Just stare at people, which I do think I have a bit of a staring problem, but that's more autism than anything. It's sometimes it is done with a sexual intent. Sometimes I am staring at an ass or a pair of titties or whatever, but most of the time it is just autism. But anyway, I play chess on my phone in between each set. You know what I mean? And I'll play like 1 to 2 quick games of chess over the time I'm at the gym, just in like little 2 minute sessions. And so I was doing some lat pull downs. You know what I mean? Classic lat pull downs. I don't know. I don't have the greatest lats. I don't really have, now that I'm saying it out loud, I don't really have any great muscle group, but my lats are especially weak. And so I'm doing some lat pull downs at the gym. You know what I mean? Probably doing them completely incorrectly. Uh, it's very awkward doing lat pull downs because you don't know where to look, right? When you're doing bench, you look up. When you're doing like curls, you look in the mirror to check your form or whatever. Same with like uh lateral raises, dumbbell raises. Uh but with lat shit, you don't know where to look. But so I'm taking my break on my phone. There's this guy here, and let me preface this by saying I'm 5'4", dude. I'm literally 4 feet 11 inches. All right, like I am an incredibly short individual, and there's this guy here who's probably I would say at least twice my age. I'm in my early 20s, so twice my age isn't that old, but still, this guy's at least twice my age, and this is a college gym, right? This is where college kids work out. Staff can work out there, but mostly this is for people in their early 20s to work out at who are, actively involved in education or whatever. But there's this guy who works at the school uh, that I go to, and he was also at the gym, and he was also around the lat machine, but he wasn't using it, right? Because for the most part, what you're supposed to do in the gym is you're supposed to do one exercise and then move on to the next. If you're taking really long breaks in between each set that you're doing, you can do what they call a superset, right? Where it's like if you're doing bench and you're like, fuck it, I'm lifting super heavy weight. It's going to take me a long time to recover to do my next set. You can do like a super set where you do like tricep extensions or whatever during your break that you're doing bench. But this guy's not using the lat pull down machine at all. He's doing 12 different exercises at the same time. He's doing fucking sitting rows, pull ups, just all sorts of retarded shit, absolutely fatiguing his muscles. Uh, and so I'm on my phone. This is the longest, most convoluted story ever, but I'm filled with so much rage. I'm filled with so much rage just recounting this story that I have to just talk it out so that I don't scream and break everything around me like a fucking autistic kid whose iPad just died in the middle of playing Angry Birds. Sorry. Take a breath. Take a deep breath. So I'm on my phone playing chess. I mean, I take breaks that are even shorter than most people take because I'm not lifting super heavy weight because I'm dieting down right now. So I just like I physically don't have enough energy to lift super heavy weight. And so I take like shorter rest periods, maybe a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes at the very most if I'm feeling really fucked up from it, which is yeah, it's shorter than most people do it. But I'm playing chess on my phone and I have like these open ear headphones, right? Where it's like the bone conduction or whatever, where it basically it doesn't cover my ear so I can hear everything around me. Uh which is tactical as fuck, dude. That's why I do it. Just so that I could be tactically aware in every single situation that I'm in. No, I do it because my body's fucked up and I get ear infections if I use in ear headphones. You know, like in the ear, not over ear, but in ear. And I don't wear over ear headphones just because that's like I'm already pushing being visibly identifiable as autistic, right? Like I like the way I dress, I wear the same thing every single day. The way I walk, I'm always like fiddling with my hands and stuff. I already look very autistic. And so I think if I was wearing over ear headphones like in public, like some people can pull it off. I would have people coming up to me like grabbing my shoulder being like, "Is your mommy and daddy around?" Like that's that's what I would look like if I was wearing over ear headphones. But I wear these open ear ones so I can hear everything and I don't get ear infections and stuff. And I hear this guy being like, "I'd love to do some lat pull downs, but some people just can't stop playing on their phones." And in that moment, I already have like a pretty fast resting heart rate. I'm pretty sure I have like some sort of genetic issue. Like my resting rate is already like 80 beats a minute. But when I hear that, and he's like, when he says it, he's like right next to me. He couldn't be talking about anybody else. And we only have one lat pull down machine in the gym. So he literally could not be talking about anybody else. And my heart rate jumps from its typical, you know, normal resting 80 beats per minute to probably 200 instantly. Like I can feel it pulsing in my neck, filling me with anger. And I don't get angry too often. I get frustrated frequently. Uh, Once again, autism, I get frustrated a lot, but I don't get angry a lot, like a sustainable amount of anger. Like when I get frustrated, I'm over it in 2 seconds. You know what I mean? But like getting actually angry for me is like that's like a once every like 4 to 6 months type of thing. Like getting legitimately like seething with anger. You know, like I'll get frustrated and like twist my controller while I'm playing a game or whatever or not twist it, try to twist it, and then realize how weak I am that I can't even break a fucking controller, and then that makes me really sad and takes me out of the frustration. But like, I don't get angry like that. As emotional as I am, anger is not is one that I've been able to kind of control uh for the most part. Like I'll feel anger, but I'll get over it pretty quickly. But this is just boiling inside of me because the thing that really pissed me off about it was the radish nature of it. Not radish like the plant, but like rat like the animal. Like this it's true rat behavior to to not only not have the balls to say something to someone's face, right? Like if you want to talk shit about someone behind their back, that's fine by me. I know everyone shits on it, but it's like sometimes you just got to get something out and you don't want to say it to the person's face. uh, and you're just like pissed off about it or whatever, right? And you're like, even if I say it to this guy's fucking face, what there's not going to be any resolution from it. So I'm pretty okay with talking shit about people behind their back as long as it's not too excessive. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty okay with it. But this type of thing pisses me off so much, where people they'll say something and in their head they're thinking, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, they're thinking, I can't lose in this situation, right? This guy, this 5 foot, I'm not even joking here. This guy might not even be 5 foot tall, might not even be 5 foot tall. And that's the thing that really pisses me off about this is that he's given us fucking manlets a bad name, dude. Because I myself am a manlet, but I'm a quiet, respectful, you know what I mean? I'm a quiet, respectful, go about my business, do my shit type of manlet. Uh, and this guy, he's acting like a manlet. I don't act like a manlet. I act like a little, just like autistic elf, just running around doing whatever, right? That's how I act. But this guy, he's truly embodied the manlet spirit of aggression, but also an understanding of or a feeling of inferiority, right? He truly embodies this. And he's thinking in his head, probably, this is my guess, is I can't lose in this situation because I either get to talk shit about this guy and he does nothing, and then I feel like this big, strong badass who, you know what I mean, is talking shit about this 22 year old. Meanwhile, I'm 45 and I'm working out in a gym filled with fucking college students because I work at a college. Uh, and I also heard him talking about his daughter's treatment. Either it means rehab or cancer, and it wasn't even his daughter because he mentioned that she went to live with her biological dad, which is just so funny. I mean, and that was really the satisfaction for me is it was not reacting in this situation and then later learning how sad this guy's life is that either his stepdaughter was in rehab or some sort of medical treatment, right, that he probably helped pay for, and then she said fuck you and went to her biological father. Like that filled me with a certain amount of satisfaction that's truly hard to describe. It was a feeling of elation in like a light, almost like an out of body experience from like, you know what I mean, when you jerk off after like a week and a half of not jerking off. Like that's, but it was past that. It was like an ethereal, like God reached out and touched my forehead and said, "Here you go." And I felt it in my whole body. Like, "Oh, this is why you are the way you are. This is why you're this little bitch who who is too scared to confront someone but will talk shit in front of them so that if I say anything in that situation, if I say, hey man, this is how everyone fucking does it, say it to my fucking face next time, then I'm the bad guy, right? That's what really pissed me off about the way he did it. Like if he came up to me and he was like, yo, get off your fucking phone, I'd still be like, whatever, man. Like this is how everybody works. This is the way you're supposed to work out. You know, if he did that, I would have been okay with it. To a certain extent, I would have respected him more. But no, he played the situation in a way where, and it was a true example of toxic masculinity. I don't like that word or phrase. I don't use it often, but this is true toxic masculinity. You know, like like artificially high testosterone behavior. Like there's real high test behavior was what I exhibited by just sitting there and doing nothing and continuing to play on my phone. Like I put my phone back in my pocket for a second and then just like out of a reaction being like, oh, maybe I am being a dickhead. But then I was like, I just got done with my set. It, the fuck are you talking about? And I got right back on my phone. Uh, that's how I reacted to the situation, which is true high test, like natural big old balls, tiny dick, natural high test behavior. But he was exhibiting like artificially high test behavior of of not being able to control your emotions, but simultaneously not having the balls to actually confront me. You know what I mean? Like he was angry, but he didn't have the real masculine ability to say that shit to my face. You know what I mean? And that's what really made me seething mad about the situation was it was the fact that he put himself in this win-win situation, right? Where either he gets to be the big tough guy, you know what I mean, talking shit, and the guy doesn't do anything. But also, if I did something, he would have been in the right because he would have been like, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to him, dude. If I was talking to you, I would have, like, I didn't say anything to you. Why are you mad at me? I was just talking to my friend or whatever. And his friend clearly hated him. The guy that he was talking to he's like a coach or something at this school. I don't know what he coaches, but he's a coach and he also runs the gym or whatever. And he clearly did not have any interest in talking to this manlet, right? And I'll call him a manlet because he was exhibiting true manlet behavior. Like I said, he was being what people think a manlet is. Not like me, dude. Not not like me. Yeah, I'm a classic. I'm a reserved, quiet manlet incel. Okay, I have that about me. But this guy, true fucking manlet behavior, and I was just so mad. And this happened over 24 hours ago, and I was mad about it for about an hour, and then I stopped being mad, and then I was mad again. It just pissed me off so much because it was just, I guess it's toxic masculinity. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it was. It was fake high tea behavior of being like, I'll talk shit about someone in front of them, but also if they talk shit to me, then I almost did it. I almost spurged out on him. I don't know. It just pissed me off so much that I can't even properly explain the whole situation, dude. But it was the maddest I've been in a while. Uh, like I said, I don't get like actually mad very often. Frustrated, yes, but mad, not really. It's just not something that I feel like is sustaining anger or resentment towards someone. But this guy, if I had his address yesterday, I would have 100% called him a pedophile and posted it on Twitter. Like that's what I'll say about how mad I was. I would have said this guy tried to fuck my 12-year-old daughter and then posted his full address on Twitter. I would have done that. Like that's how mad I was. Just the expression of I don't even know. His expression of masculinity and his expression of toughness was just so fake and bitchy and like radish. I don't know, rat-esque. Uh, it just drove me up a fucking wall. And I was really angry. Like I was so angry, I didn't pull my phone out for the rest of my. I played on my phone when I was still doing the lat pull downs because I just wanted to prove a point to him. But the rest of the time, I didn't look at my phone once, and I was just staring at him. Like I was doing like shrugs, and I was looking in the mirror. And usually, when you do shrugs, you look in the mirror to make sure that your form's all good or whatever. But I was doing shrugs, and I was just looking in the mirror and just staring at him. I was so fucking pissed off. Which, yeah, that's like psycho, like just let this loser fester in this horrible life he's created for himself. That's what I should have done. I should have heard what he said about his daughter getting out of treatment that he paid for and then going to live with her biological dad and been like, I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's what you fucking get when you're a person like that. Like that's what you get. Uh it just explains why it happened. You know what I mean? Explains why his daughter got out of the treatment that he paid for and then went to live with a woman who or live with a man who fucked his wife and then didn't have to have any of the stress of raising a child, and she still prefers the guy who abandoned her to him. Like that should have been what I did. I should have just heard that and turned my brain off and just went back to playing chess on my phone, but I didn't do that. Instead, I just stared at him for the rest of the time and watched him just walk around with his failing body. Uh, because he was jacked. He was more jacked than me. I'll say that. He definitely had more muscle than me, but you could tell his body was failing him in a pretty spectacular way, despite the fact like he could not move his arms fully. He could not move his shoulders fully, and he was also 5'2", right? Which I don't I don't think people who are 5'2" are bad people, but I do think that it is a shitty experience in life, and I'm glad he's experiencing that. Because, like I said, I'm a short dude. I've been short my entire life, been fat for a lot of my life, still am a little bit fat, but yeah, yeah. But I just don't act like that. You know what I mean? Is what it is. But so that was my big news this week, was me just filled with contempt. Right? Anger fades. Contempt fizzles inside of you forever, burning hot and eating away at your soul. Like, I truly have contempt for this man. Like I said, if he would have come up to me and roid raged out and been like, "Get off your fucking phone, you pussy," I probably would have gotten off my phone, to be fair, right? Like I said, he was way more jacked than me, but he didn't do that. He put himself in a situation that he would feel good about himself either way, despite the fact that he's a gigantic piece of shit who has failed in his life in every way, shape, or form. And he hasn't failed in life because he's a maintenance man or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, people who shit on people for, like, the job that they have or whatever, it, I don't get that. You know what I mean? Unless your job is, like, stamping fucking license plates in a prison, then I might judge you a little bit for that. But people who, like, look down on, like, maintenance people or people who work at, you know, like McDonald's or whatever, I don't get that. It's like, do you want McDonald's? Okay, then someone has to work there. You know what I mean? Like, that's my kind of view on it. It's like, do you want everything to be clean and like the AC to run smoothly? Okay, well then someone has to do that, and you shouldn't like look down on that person or think that they deserve less because they didn't go to college and get a fake degree and then a fake job, right? You shouldn't look down on a person for that. But I do look down on him for that. Not because of the job itself, but because he probably once dreamed of something bigger, which that's probably true of everybody, but he he doesn't work as a maintenance man because he enjoys what he's doing or because the job market's shit and he just needs to provide for his family. He works as a maintenance man because he is incapable of self-reflection and improving himself as a human being and working towards a greater goal. That's why he does it. He's not just like complacent and just being like, yeah, I'm a maintenance man, it's what I do. I have an apartment, whatever. That that's not why he's a maintenance man. He's a maintenance man because it's the only job he has that's available to him where people will tolerate his shitty behavior and off-putting horrible personality that he's completely unaware of. Like, I have a pretty shitty personality, right? I say dumb shit constantly. I'm not very good at talking, uh, but at least I'm aware of it. At least I am capable of self-reflection to a level where I can be like, yeah, I'm just not, I just don't have a great personality or whatever. But this guy is completely unaware of who he is as a person. He has no passions. You can tell that this is the type of guy with no passions, right? It's not like he has a job that he's like whatever about, and then he does something that he loves on the side, and is just fine with that life. Like, that's a pretty good life if you ask me. But he's he's just not aware of who he is as a person and what he wants to do with his life. So he chooses to, instead of satisfying his ego by doing art or, doing a retarded Nazi podcast that no one listens to, like me, instead, he satisfies his ego by thinking he's tough by not talking shit to people half his age. You know what I mean? He didn't talk shit to me. He talked shit in front of me. I could hear him. He probably knew I could hear him, but he didn't even talk shit to me. If he talked shit to me, he would still be a loser who's a piece of shit who's really incapable of any other type of work than, simple maintenance. He would still be that, but at least he would be a loser with enough balls to talk shit to some guy half his age who is probably also 50 pounds less of muscle than he is. Like, he was pretty jacked. Like I said, the dude was fucking. That is the one thing this guy has going for him that I'm kind of like. He was a pretty big dude. You know what I mean? Big in terms of his muscle. Like I said, he was probably actually 4 feet 11. Like, not even joking. He was probably four. Like, I'm very short, and he was noticeably shorter than I am. But you know, yeah. And I'm just gonna, instead of being angry at him, and instead of reveling in the sadness of his life, you know what I mean? Instead of living in that and just bathing, soaking in the depressing nature of his horrible decisions and this horrible life he's built for himself, instead of doing all that, I'm gonna try to move on from it. And I'm gonna try to just not let it get to me. But like I said, it did get to me. It's one of the only times I've been actually like angry just in general at a while in a while. It's probably the first time I've been angry at a person in I don't even know how long. Like, actually, like, festering anger. I don't know when the last time I ever felt that for a human being was, but it's happening now, ain't it? All right. Other things that happened in my life. Yeah, this episode is I'm phoning it in this episode. If you can't tell already, most of the episodes it does seem like I'm phoning it in. No, that's just a lack of talent. I know people are gonna say it seems like you phoned it in every episode. No, that's just me lacking the talent that I wish I had. Um, but I am phoning it in this episode because we got a really, really fun one. Uh, for the main episode this week, I won't spoil it at all, but I really enjoyed doing it. I probably spent 2 hours on it, but it went by in like 15 minutes. It was very fun to do, and I got my microphone back, so the audio quality should be a little better. If anyone gives a shit, dude, like I said, I don't think anyone listening to this cares about audio quality at all. They're just being nice and being like, I'll give this fucking loser a few listens. You know what I mean? So that's. But I did get my microphone back, and that's why this is coming at you a day or two later than it normally does, because I had to go back to my parents' place to pick up the microphone yesterday, and so I couldn't record. Not because I don't feel comfortable recording at my parents' house or whatever, but just because I didn't have a chair. I did not have access to a chair that I could sit down and record in. So, yeah, I just didn't have access to a chair, which is why this is coming at you a day late, but no one listening to this gives a shit. Um, yeah, yesterday I also showed up to class an hour late. Very, very funny. At first, yeah, so I showed up to class an hour late because I was like, class starts at 1. And I showed up and I saw, I was like, no one's here. It's like 2 minutes before class starts, dude. What a bunch of like shitty students. How is no one here? Like, how is everyone late to this class? It starts in 2 minutes. Like, you got to be here 2 minutes before class starts. Like, these people are really shitty. Like, I guess I'm really killing it, like being earlier than everyone else. And then we have a sign in sheet. And I looked at the sign in sheet and I was like, this must be yesterday's or something, but I'll still sign in or whatever. Right? Because everyone else's name was already on the sign in sheet. But I was like, the professor must have, like, completely not analyzing it in, like, understanding the fact that, no, I'm an idiot and I forgot that class starts at noon instead of 1. Just no self reflection at all. You know what I mean? No ability to maybe accept the fact that I'm the problem in the situation and that I'm the one who is acting outside of the norm. Just a complete inability to do that. And then I checked and I was like, oh fuck, it does start at 12 and not 1. But I mean, this class, it's mostly like research. It's mostly just like individual research, independent learning, if you will. So or leering if you're Somalian. If you're any other ethnicity, it's learning. But if you're Somalian, it's leering. Um, but yeah, So I was an hour late to class, and the professor doesn't give a shit at all. Like, we're usually in class for 5 minutes. He like tells us one thing, gives us a sheet of paper, and says, "All right, leave." So it's pretty. I actually enjoy it a lot because it. I don't like any class, and so a lack of class is more enjoyable to me than a passionate professor who is teaching a topic that I really am interested in. Like like a shitty professor who just lets class out 45 minutes early every single time is always going to be preferable to me than even the best professor who is teaching a subject that I could not have more of an interest in, that I love so deeply and so passionately. uh I'll always prefer not doing something to doing something, I guess, is the ultimate conclusion to that little ramble I was going on. But yeah, it's all everything that happened this week, I think, with me. So yeah, nothing. The same as usual, dude. Absolutely nothing. I got mad at a guy and I was an hour late to class. Very interesting life I lead, but you don't want to lead an interesting life. All these people that party constantly and go out and, travel or whatever, you don't want an interesting life. You want a boring life. Because boredom is where you truly do something. You know what I mean? You truly go beyond what everyone else is doing. That's what boredom ultimately leads to. That's what a lack of stimulus, you know what I mean, and a lack of the outside world dictating things for you does to you, right? Takes you to that next level. You got to be bored. The lack of boredom, I think, is one of the things that's really negatively impacting our society. You know, like, I think that's why everyone's going so crazy. Everyone thinks people are going crazy because they're bored and they don't have jobs and they don't have families and stuff like that, which that's part of it. But I I think the reason that people are going out and doing all these protests and stuff is because they're not bored enough. Like, if you're bored, you'll you'll think about going to a protest, and then you'll realize how retarded it is, right? That's the ultimate conclusion. Whether it's a protest you support or not, you'll ultimately come to the conclusion that the government's going to do what they've been doing, which is whatever the fuck they want to do. And you'll be like, I'm not going to a fucking protest, right? But you can only come to that conclusion if you're bored for a decent amount of time, right? Because that's a quick conclusion that you come to, is that it's retarded. But in order to have the background information to come to the conclusion of retardedness, you have to be bored enough to think about, you know what I mean, all the other shit that then gets implanted in your brain, and that then allows you to come to the conclusion that I'm not going to a fucking protest about even if I love Somalians and I think everyone in America should be a Somalian, I'm still not going to a fucking protest about Somalia because my input does not matter. It does not matter to the government. Certainly does not matter to the people who disagree with me, right? Because every protest nowadays is so retarded, and you could say it's retarded because of FBI or like CIA intelligence agency involvement or whatever, but they are retarded, and they only make the people who disagree with you hate you and disagree with you even more, right? That's what protests do. They don't lead to any sort of grand, legislative overhaul or whatever that changes the country in the way that you think it should be changed. They don't do that. They, like I said, clearly don't convince anybody, right? People are becoming even more steadfast in their beliefs. People are celebrating the deaths of anyone who they disagree with, even on the smallest level, right? Like, it's getting crazy, dude. Like, with the whole Kirk thing, and now with this, what's this guy, Preddy, this Jew that got killed? It's yeah, people are like, the slightest disagreement, like, if I think the best color is yellow, which it is, I mean, yellow is objectively the best color, but anyway, if I think the best color is yellow and you think it's green, and you get slaughtered in front of your family, the reaction of, I'd say, 2% of Americans nowadays would be to throw some sort of large block party. If if that if that situation was to happen, that would be the reaction of about 92% of Americans, regardless of age, political standing, religious background, upbringing, race, ethnicity, national origin. The reaction of 92% of Americans is to go, good, he fucking deserved to die. And then they throw a few fucking hot dogs on the grill or whatever, right? Like that's, and, and I guess the reason it pisses me off so much is because they aren't killing each other. You know what I mean? Like these psychos on the right and left, it goes back to that whole cowardice thing and that the lack of true masculinity and true like high testosterone behavior. Because if you kill a guy and you celebrate his death, look, you probably shouldn't have killed that guy, but at least you were the one who did it, right? And so you kind of have earned the right to celebrate this guy's death. But in the instance of, Charlie Kirk and David Preddy and those guys, they weren't even the ones that killed him, right? David Preddy was killed by a bunch of fucking psychopaths who barely made their way through the GED program after dropping out of high school because they thought they were going to be a welder or whatever, right? That's who killed David Preddy. And then the guy who killed Charlie Kirk, the left was celebrating Charlie Kirk's death and being like, yeah, yeah, fuck you, you deserve to die or whatever. That guy's from Israel. that guy is a member of the Mossad. That's who killed Charlie Kirk. And so, yeah, it's just funny that if they were killing each other and they were celebrating their deaths, right? Like I respect the Taliban. I think I can say that. I respect Al Qaeda because Al Qaeda killed a bunch of Americans. I don't know if they actually did 9/11 or not, but let's just say they did. They did 9/11 and killed a bunch of Americans, and then they started shooting their guns in the air and going, ooh, loo, 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 loo. Or if you believe Israel did 9/11, which, I mean, I don't, if you believe Israel did 9/11, then, you know what I mean, all the Israelis were getting together and dancing. You can look it up. They were having a nice little party, dude, hitting an Irish jig or whatever. And it's like, I can respect that. I can respect Benjamin Netanyahu, gloating over the fact that he killed probably tens of thousands of innocent Palestinian children because at least he was the one who did it. Or he didn't do it, but he ordered it to happen. You know what I mean? It happened because of what he said. I can respect that more than just waiting for a pretty seemingly random act of violence to happen and then celebrating it because it happened to a person that you have minor disagreements with, right? That you disagree with on a very minute level. And, everyone else is saying this, but they're saying it because it's the truth. It's exactly what the government wants you to do. You know what I mean? The people who actually run our country and have like these 100-year plans about how they're going to enslave the American people or whatever, what they want is for us to hate each other. So, I mean, you look at like colonialism and stuff like that. When the Brits set up a lot of their colonies, the way they did it was they would put two rival tribes that they knew were rival tribes and they would put them in the same colony, and then those two rival tribes would fight each other. And then you know what they wouldn't do? Fight the fucking British. So that's kind of precisely what the government wants you to do. They want to continue this oligarchy, this bureaucratic oligarchy that they've created, and they know that if we're distracted fighting each other, then we're not going to fight them. And it's like the dumb, corny, like Hunger Games thing. You know what I mean? The type of shit that people always say, but it's the truth. Hey, it's the truth. So yeah, I guess we'll get into the articles for this week. Like I said, I talked about ICE or whatever, and how much Americans hate each other, but I'm not going to read a fucking article about it because, I mean, NBC literally used like a deep fake image of that dude that got executed by ICE, right? Which, I mean, yeah, that's like the thing about ICE for me is that I'm a pretty big fan of deportation. uh, not just the illegals, really anyone. Look, and it's not even a hatred of people from other countries, although I do hate everyone who's not American. That you can call me a nationalist or whatever, which that's not really an insult to me, but I do hate everyone that's not American. But it's not even that. It's more of a like, hey, dude, like shit's so fucked up right now. We just can't take any other shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. We got to figure shit out first before we let a billion Indians into the country, because that's just going to add another layer of complexity to the whole situation. Uh, but yeah, they're not even doing that. Like, that's the thing that I think a lot more people would be willing to be like, yeah, a few bad apples killed an innocent man, executed him in the street. Not really an execution, but like I said, it was more of a Three Stooges style act of buffoonery is, that ended in the death of an innocent man. Um, yeah, like people calling it an execution, they're wrong, but they're not. Uh, 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 it was an execution of idiocracy, right? It was an execution of dumbness rather than an execution of maliciousness. You know what I mean? Like those guys were retards who 6 months ago were getting fired from Walmart because they didn't get enough, because a customer complained to the manager when they said, I don't know where the motherfucking mini wheats are. Get out of here. Right? Like those are the type of people that ICE agents are. Um, and so it was an execution, if you want to call it that, but it was an execution of buffoonery, ultimately. But anyway, I would be more willing to be like, yeah, dude, people are gonna die. These are armed agents. They're being harassed. They're being fucked with constantly. Even if they're wrong, even if there's nothing legal about the death, there's gonna be enough. It's a big enough situation to where bad apples can worm their way in and do bad things, right? Like that's what I would say if ICE was actually doing their job in deporting illegal immigrants, but they're not. So I can't even. There's no defense there. Like that's the thing that's like really. I don't know. Like that's the thing that's like really annoying about it to me with the rights reaction to the whole thing. Like, look, if ICE was doing their job and actually deporting every single illegal immigrant in their country, I would look at the reaction of the right and be like, yes, they are excusing the blatant murder of an innocent man, but at least there's there's something greater going on to kind of justify that. But there's not. There's just as many. Sorry, my roommate's screaming right now. It's hilarious. Um, but there's not. There's not any like. There's just as much immigration now, legal immigration that people don't want. There's just as many Americans losing their jobs because of people coming into this country who are willing to work for 20 cents a day. There's just as much of that shit. There's just as many illegal immigrants, probably more than there were uh, than when Trump came into office. And so it's like you can't even justify it by saying, yeah, it was horrible that it happened, but at the same time, this is just such a large, complex operation that it's going to happen. You can't even say that. And also, whatever, whatever. No one's listening at this point, and I'm not really saying anything even coherent. Jesus Christ. I always wonder what game he loses his mind for hours straight, and it's fucking hilarious. But I just wonder what game he's playing that causes such a constant stream, like elicits such a constant stream of like frustration and anger. I wonder what game it is. I really do. It could be any game. He could just be that type of guy. Yeah, he's playing Animal Crossing right now and screaming into his mic. He's like building a little village or whatever you do in that game and screaming. Dude, it's so fucking funny. It's funny now. It's not funny when it happens at 3 in the morning and you're like, did someone get shot? Did an ICE agent shoot someone in my dorm room? You know, you wake up like that. But anyway, the news. So this article is from the BBC. 5 killed in gas explosion in Iran, officials say, from Maya Davies. 5 people have been killed in 2 separate explosions in which local officials and state media say they were caused by gas leaks. No. No, they weren't. These motherfuckers planted a pipe bomb there and it went off and they were like, fuck, that was the wrong. Was it supposed to go off then? So one person was killed and 14 injured in a blast at a residential building in the southern city of Bandar Abbas on the Gulf Coast, a local official told Iran's semi-official Mehr news agency. Uh, Another explosion killed 4 people in the southwestern city of Avas, the state-run Tehran Times reported. It comes as tensions persist in the region after a buildup of U.S. forces in the Gulf and pressure that Tehran strike a deal on its nuclear program from President Donald Trump, who said Saturday that Iran was talking to Washington. Yeah, they're probably talking how. Like, talking to doesn't mean anything. Like, you could be talking to someone how you talk on, like, a Modern Warfare 3, like, Call of Duty lobby, being like, fuck you, man, fuck you, bitch, I ain't doing that shit. Like, that's probably what Iran's saying. They probably have China whispering in their ear, being like, drag the U.S. into a war. Do it, Iran. You know what I mean? Because the Chinese, they're a scheming group of people. You know, the Chinese, they're willing to fight in a big war, but I don't know if they're willing to do it against people who aren't Asian. Like, China's been involved in some of the most deadly wars of all time, but they're like Chinese civil wars and like the war against Japan during World War II and stuff like that. I don't know if China is if they want to fight anyone outside of East Asia. I think that's the only way they're willing to do it, if it's someone who's close to them. You know what I mean? And so I think what China's doing is like whispering in the ear of Iran, you know what I mean, giving them all this probably money and information and probably some scientists and stuff to help them bolster their nuclear program so that America invades and then China can kind of do whatever the fuck they want to do. You know what I mean? Because America's wrapped up doing this shit. That's my guess. That's my guess as to what's going on in Iran. I could be wrong. But anyway, in the port city of Bandar Abbas, state TV said the explosion had ripped through an 8-floor building, destroying 2 floors, several vehicles, and shops in the Moalim Boulevard area. The local fire department chief, Mohammed Amin Liak, said a preliminary assessment showed it had been caused by a gas leak and buildup. My colleagues will give more details in the next few hours, he said in a video published by Maher. God. I mean, this goes back to the whole Iraq WMD situation, which obviously everyone's comparing this to, but it's like Iraq can't build a road. They're not going to build a nuke that can reach the United States of America, right? Like Iraq is still having like medieval style religious debates or religious conflicts over, different forms of Islam or whatever. They're stuck there mentally. They're not going to build a fucking nuke that's going to hit, you know what I mean, Denver or whatever. They're not doing it. Iran can't even keep a fucking building running, dude. They cannot. Iran is so horribly run that they can somehow not prevent buildings from just spontaneously combusting. Right? Iran is incapable of doing that. So how the fuck are they going to build a nuke they might build a nuke, right? What they build might technically be a nuclear weapon, but it's not any threat to us. It might be a threat to another country that people say control us. It might be a threat to that country, but it won't be a threat to America. So yeah, that's very funny that they can't keep buildings from exploding, but people think they're gonna build a fucking missile that's gonna reach Baltimore. Uh, so this is from Boston 5 News, ABC, uh, and this is deep in sorrow, quote unquote. Search suspended for crews of fishing boat lost off Gloucester, Massachusetts coast. So it's called Gloucester, but it's spelled Gloucester. Um, but the thing you have to remember about that is that Massachusetts is a mostly Irish state. Like, yeah, they have a lot of good colleges and stuff like that, but for the most part, the ancestry in Massachusetts is Ireland. So you kind of have to take that into account when it comes to the pronunciation of something that's spelled Gloucester, um, because Irish people are retarded and they don't know how to pronounce words correctly. So that's why uh, this place that anybody else would pronounce Gloucester or Gloucester, uh, or Gloucester. Sorry. Hey, I do have a little bit of Irish in me, so it took me a little bit of time to figure out how to pronounce it correctly. Got a little bit of that Irish wet brain to me. Uh, yeah, that's why they pronounce it Gloucester. It's because they're retarded and they're Irish. So, or they're Irish, so they're retarded. There we go. All right, so after covering more than 1,000 square miles, the U.S. Coast Guard said it is suspending the search for the missing crew members from a fishing vessel lost off Massachusetts' North Shore. And according to a Coast Guard spokesperson, uh, watch standers received an emergency position indicating radio beacon around 6:50 a.m. Friday from the Lily Jean, a 72-foot fishing vessel. Nice name. Kind of sounds like a porn star name, I will say. I feel like the porn stars are pretty big fans of like the Lily and then a first name after that, right? Like, I feel like Jean is kind of a first name. And yeah, the porn stars are a big fan of that, going like Lily Jean, something like that. But anyway, this boat is lost somewhere out there. So 7 people were on board. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration confirmed that a fisheries observer from their agency was on board the vessel. Damn. The Coast Guard was unable to make contact with the vessel and immediately launched an MH-60 Jayhawk helicopter crew. Go Jayhawks, Rock Chalk, KU. Darren Peterson's the GOAT. We're winning the Natty this year. Anyway, Jayhawk helicopter crew and a small boat crew to begin searching the waters for the boat. According to officials, crews located a debris field in the vicinity of the EPIRB activation about 25 miles off the coast of Cape Ann. One body was located in the water, as well as an unaccompanied life raft. Or an unoccupied life raft. Yeah, that's they should have called off the search the second they saw that. Or maybe that was one dude who just went hog wild. Like the boat was perfectly fine and he freaked out and like threw a life raft in the water, hit the button, it like inflated, and he was like, fuck, we gotta get off the boat. That might have been what happened there. So yeah, it's pretty fucked up. But it's nice to know that as chaotic as the world is, some things never change. People are always going to get lost at sea. And there's something very fun about that, dude. Something very mysterious about a bunch of retarded micks out on the ocean. Just probably getting drunk until they die. And so this is from Fox 11 News. This is our final article of the day. Probably run through it pretty quickly. So this is woman faces multiple charges after mermaid skinny dipping incident turns violent. A Louisiana woman's attempt to go skinny dip did not end swimmingly, authorities said, after she allegedly attacked the sheriff's deputy responding to a trespassing complaint before finally surrendering to deputies Tuesday. It would have been really funny if this ended like the David Preddy situation. And all like these schizophrenics online who think they're mermaids and vampires were like, magical creatures are under attack by Trump's human Gestapo. That would have been funny if that was the result of this. So, according to the Union Parish Sheriff's Office, deputies were dispatched in November to a residence in the Linville community of Marion after a caller reported a neighbor standing in their driveway screaming and refusing to leave the property despite having been warned properly. Anyway, yeah, so this chick went skinny dipping, it seems like a deep history of disturbed criminal behavior, and then uh, when they caught her butt booty naked, and that was probably not a nice find. You know, you're imagining skinny dipping, and you're imagining like one of like those '90s camp movies where it's like the hot, counselors in their 20s or whatever, and they got big old titties and flat stomachs and stuff, or big old dicks if that's what you like, and big old balls. That's not what they it's not what they encountered on this skinny dip. I can guarantee you that they showed her mugshot, not a full body picture, but they showed her mugshot, and I can guarantee you they did not run in what you want to run into when you get a call for someone skinny dipping. I'll say that much about this fine Louisiana woman. All right, yeah, I guess the mic isn't picking it up, but my roommate is screaming right now. But I hope you guys have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. Don't be angry, just and don't revel in the sadness of others or the death of others or anything like that. Just do what you're gonna do, and kind of ignore everything around you. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Ping.